training and inferencing, video, image, and text data, pre- and post-processing with CUDA and AI workloads, synthetic data generation, AI-powered recommender systems, SQL and vector database processing as well. Next-generation models will require 10 to 20 times more compute to train with significantly more data. The trend is expected to continue. Over the trailing 4 quarters, we estimate that inference drove more than 40% of our data center revenue. CSPs, consumer internet companies, and enterprises benefit from the incredible throughput and efficiency of NVIDIA's inference platform. Demand for NVIDIA is coming from frontier model makers, consumer internet services, and tens of thousands of companies and startups building generative AI applications for consumers, advertising, education, enterprise and healthcare, and robotics. Developers desire NVIDIA's rich ecosystem and availability in every cloud. CSPs appreciate the broad adoption of NVIDIA and are growing their NVIDIA capacity given the high demand. NVIDIA H200 platform began ramping in Q2, shipping to large CSPs, consumer internet, and enterprise companies. The NVIDIA H200 builds upon the strength of our Hopper architecture and offering over 40% more memory bandwidth compared to the H100. Our data center revenue in China grew sequentially in Q2 and is a significant contributor to our data center revenue. As a percentage of total data center revenue, it remains below levels seen prior to the imposition of export controls. We continue to expect the China market to be very competitive going forward. The latest round of MLPerf inference benchmarks highlighted NVIDIA's inference leadership with both NVIDIA Hopper and Blackwell platforms combining to win gold medals on all tests. At Computex, NVIDIA, with the top computer manufacturers, unveiled an array of Blackwell architecture-powered systems and NVIDIA networking for building AI factories and data centers. With the NVIDIA MGX modular reference architecture, our OEMs and ODM partners are building more than 100 Blackwell-based systems designed quickly and cost-effectively. The NVIDIA Blackwell platform brings together multiple GPUs, CPUs, DPU, NVLink, NVLink switch, and the networking chips, systems, and NVIDIA CUDA software to power the next generation of AI across the cases, industries, and countries. The NVIDIA GB200 NVL72 system with the 5th generation NVLink enables all 72 GPUs to act as a single GPU and deliver up to 30 times faster inference for LLMs workloads and unlocking the ability to run trillion parameter models in real time. Hopper demand is strong and Blackwell is widely sampling. We executed a change to the Blackwell GPU mask to improve production yields. Blackwell production ramp is scheduled to begin in the 4th quarter and continue into fiscal year 26. In Q4, we expect to ship several $billion in Blackwell revenue. Hopper shipments are expected to increase in the second half of fiscal 2025. Hopper supply and availability have improved. Demand for Blackwell platforms is well above supply, and we expect this to continue into next year. Networking revenue increased 16% sequentially. Our Ethernet for AI revenue, which includes our Spectrum-X end-to-end Ethernet platform, doubled sequentially with hundreds of customers adopting our Ethernet offerings. Spectrum-X has broad market support from OEM and ODM partners and is being adopted by CSPs, GPU cloud providers, and enterprise, including xAI, to connect the largest GPU compute cluster in the world. Spectrum-X supercharges Ethernet for AI processing and delivers 1.6x the performance of traditional Ethernet. We plan to launch new Spectrum X products every year to support demand for scaling compute clusters from tens of thousands of GPUs today to millions of GPUs in the near future. Spectrum X is well on track to begin a multi-billion-dollar product line within a year. Our sovereign AI opportunities continue to expand as countries recognize AI expertise and infrastructure at national imperatives for their society and industries. Japan's National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology is building its AI Bridging Cloud Infrastructure 3.0 supercomputer with Nvidia. We believe sovereign AI revenue will reach low double-digit billions this year. The enterprise AI wave has started. Enterprises also drove sequential revenue growth in the quarter. We are working with most of the Fortune 100 companies on AI initiatives across industries and geographies. A range of applications are fueling our growth, including AI-powered chatbots, generative AI copilots, and agents to build new monetizable business applications and enhance employee productivity. Amdocs is using NVIDIA generative AI for their smart agent, transforming the customer experience and reducing customer service costs by 30%. ServiceNow is using NVIDIA for its Now Assist offering, the fastest growing new product in the company's history. SAP is using NVIDIA to build Joule copilots. Cohesity is using NVIDIA to build their generative AI agent and lower generative AI development costs. Snowflake serves over 3 billion queries a day for over 10,000 enterprise customers, is working with NVIDIA to build copilots. And lastly, Wistron is using NVIDIA AI Omniverse to reduce end-to-end cycle times for their factories by 50%. Automotive was a key growth driver for the quarter, as every automaker developing autonomous vehicle technology is using NVIDIA in their data centers. Automotive will drive multi-billion dollars in revenue across on-prem and cloud consumption and will grow as next generation AV models require significantly more compute. Healthcare is also on its way to being a multi-billion-dollar business as AI revolutionizes medical imaging, surgical robots, patient care, electronic health record processing, and drug discovery. During the quarter, we announced a new NVIDIA AI Foundry service to supercharge generative AI for the world's enterprises with Meta's Llama 3.1 collection of models. This marks a watershed moment for enterprise AI. Companies, for the first time, can leverage the capabilities of an open source frontier level model to develop customized AI applications to encode their institutional knowledge into an AI flywheel to automate and accelerate their business. Accenture is the first to adopt the new service to build custom Llama 3.1 models for both its own use and to assist clients seeking to deploy generative AI applications. NVIDIA NIMs accelerate and simplify model deployment. Companies across healthcare, energy, financial services, retail, transportation, and telecommunications are adopting NIMs, including Aramco, Lowe's, and Uber. AT&T realized 70% cost savings and 8 times latency reduction after moving into NIMs for generative AI, call transcription, and classification. Over 150 partners are embedding NIMs across every layer of the AI ecosystem. We announced NIM Agent Blueprints, a catalog of customizable reference applications that include a full suite of software for building and deploying enterprise generative AI applications. With NIM Agent Blueprints, enterprises can refine their AI applications over time, creating a data-driven AI flywheel. The first NIM Agent Blueprints include workloads for customer service, computer-aided drug discovery, and enterprise retrieval augmented generation. Our system integrators, technology solution providers, and system builders are bringing NVIDIA NIM agent blueprints to enterprises. NVIDIA NIM and NIM agent blueprints are available through the NVIDIA AI enterprise software platform, which has great momentum. We expect our software, SaaS, and support revenue to approach a $2 billion annual run rate exiting this year, with NVIDIA AI Enterprise notably contributing to growth. Moving to gaming and AI PCs. Gaming revenue of $2.88 billion increased 9% sequentially and 16% year on year. We saw sequential growth in console, notebook, and desktop revenue, and demand is strong and growing, and channel inventory remains healthy. Every PC with RTX is an AI PC. RTX PCs can deliver up to 1,300 AI TOPS, and there are now over 200 RTX AI laptops designed from leading PC manufacturers. With 600 AI-powered applications and games and an installed base of 100 million devices, RTX is set to revolutionize consumer experiences with generative AI. NVIDIA ACE, a suite of generative AI technologies, is available for our.
So this live stream or this video is live for those that are just tuning on in. This is the earnings call. It is very boring, especially in the very beginning part, because it's pretty much just a script they're reading off. If you guys don't want to tune on in, I respect that. That's fine. But I just thought that some of you guys would like to hear what is going on in the background while the market is moving. So for those that do, great. For those that don't, that's fine. I'll see you tomorrow at Market Open for our live trading session. If you want to tune on into our live session, it's the second link in the description down below for 50% off.
The GeForce Now library continues to expand with total catalog size of over 2,000 titles, the most content of any cloud gaming service. Moving to Pro Visualization. Revenue of $454 million was up 6% sequentially and 20% year on year. Demand is being driven by AI and graphic use cases, including model fine-tuning and Omniverse-related workloads. Automotive and manufacturing were among the key industry verticals driving growth this quarter. Companies are racing to digitalize workflows to drive efficiency across their operations. The world's largest electronics manufacturer, Foxconn, is using NVIDIA Omniverse to power digital twins of the physical plants that produce NVIDIA Blackwell systems. And several large global enterprises, including Mercedes-Benz, signed multi-year contracts for NVIDIA Omniverse Cloud to build industrial digital twins of factories. We announced new NVIDIA USD NIMs and connectors to open Omniverse to new industries and enable developers to incorporate generative AI copilots and agents into USD workflows, accelerating their ability to build highly accurate virtual worlds.
Thank you.
WPP is implementing USD NIM microservices in its generative AI-enabled content creation pipeline for customers, such as the Coca-Cola Company. Moving to automotive and robotics. Revenue was $346 million, up 5% sequentially and up 37% year on year. Year on year growth was driven by the new customer ramps in self-driving platforms and increased demand for AI cockpit solutions. At the Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference, NVIDIA won the Autonomous Grand Challenge in the end-to-end driving at scale category, outperforming more than 400 entries worldwide. Boston Dynamics, BYD Electronics, Figure, Intrinsic, Siemens, Skilled AI, and Teradyne Robotics are using the NVIDIA Isaac Robotics platform for autonomous robot arms, humanoids, and mobile robots. Now moving to the rest of the P&L. GAAP gross margins were 75.1%, and non-GAAP gross margins were 75.7%, down sequentially due to a higher mix of new products within data center and inventory provisions for low-yielding Blackwell material. Sequentially, GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses were up 12%, primarily reflecting higher compensation-related costs. Cash flow from operations was $14.5 billion. In Q2, we utilized cash of $7.4 billion towards shareholder returns in the form of share repurchases and cash dividends, reflecting the increase in dividend per share. Our board of directors recently approved a $50 billion share repurchase authorization to add to our remaining $7.5 billion of authorization at the end of Q2. Let me turn the outlook for the third quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $32.5 billion, plus or minus 2%. Our third quarter revenue outlook incorporates continued growth of our Hopper architecture and sampling of our Blackwell products. We expect Blackwell production ramp in Q4. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 74.4% and 75% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. As our data center mix continues to shift to new products, we expect this trend to continue into the fourth quarter of fiscal 2025. For the full year, we expect gross margins to be in the mid-70% range. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $4.3 billion and $3.0 billion, respectively. Full-year operating expenses are expected to grow in the mid to upper 40% range as we work on developing our next generation of products. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be about $350 million, including gains and losses from non-affiliated investments and publicly held equity securities. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items. Further financial details are included in the CFO commentary and other information available on our IR website. We are now going to open the call for questions. Operator, would you please help us and poll for questions?
Thank you. And at this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star and then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. And as a reminder, we ask that you please limit yourself to one question. And your first question comes from the line of Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Your line is open.
Thanks for taking my question. Jensen, you mentioned in the prepared comments that there's a change in the Blackwell GPU mask. I'm curious, are there any other incremental changes in back-end packaging or anything else? And I think related, you suggested that you could ship several $1 billion of Blackwell in Q4 despite a change in the design. Is it because all these issues will be solved by then? Just help us size what is the overall impact of any changes in Blackwell timing, what that means to your kind of revenue profile, and how are customers reacting to it?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. The change to the mask is complete. There were no functional changes necessary. And so we're sampling functional samples of Blackwell, Grace Blackwell, in a variety of system configurations as we speak. There are something like 100 different types of Blackwell-based systems that are built that were shown at Computext. And we're enabling our ecosystem to start sampling those. The functionality of Blackwell is as it is, and we expect to start production in Q4.
And your next question comes from the line of Toshiya Hari with Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the question. Jensen, I had a relatively longer-term question. As you may know, there's a pretty heated debate in the market on, your customers and customers' return on investment, and what that means for the sustainability of CapEx going forward. Internally at NVIDIA, what are you guys watching? What's on your dashboard as you try to gauge customer return and how that impacts CapEx? And then a quick follow-up maybe for Colette. I think your sovereign AI number for the full year went up maybe a couple billion. What's driving the improved outlook, and how should we think about fiscal 26? Thank you.
Thanks, Toshiya. First of all, when I said ship production in Q4, I mean shipping out. I don't mean starting to ship, but I don't mean starting production, but shipping out. On the longer term question, let's take a step back. And you've heard me say that we're going through two simultaneous platform transitions at the same time. The first one is transitioning from accelerated computing from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And the reason for that is because CPU scaling has been known to be slowing for some time. And it is slow to a crawl. And yet the amount of computing demand continues to grow quite significantly. You could maybe even estimate it to be doubling every single year. And so if we don't have a new approach, computing inflation would be driving up the cost for every company, and it would be driving up the energy consumption of data centers around the world. In fact, you're seeing that. And so the answer is accelerated computing. We know that accelerated computing, of course, speeds up applications. It also enables you to do computing at a much larger scale, for example, scientific simulations or database processing. But what that translates directly to is lower cost and lower energy consumed. And in fact, this week, there's a blog that came out that talked about a whole bunch of new libraries that we offer. And that's really the core of the first platform transition, going from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And it's not unusual to see someone save 90% of their computing cost.
Still getting rejected.
And the reason for that is, of course, you just sped up an application 50x. You would expect the computing cost to decline quite significantly. The second was enabled by accelerated computing because we drove down the cost of training large language models or training deep learning so incredibly that it is now possible to have gigantic scale models, multi-trillion parameter models, and pre-train it on just about the world's knowledge corpus, and let the model go figure out how to understand human language representation and how to codify knowledge into its neural networks and how to learn reasoning. And so which caused the generative AI revolution. Now, generative AI, taking a step back about why it is that we went so deeply into it, is because it's not just a feature, it's not just a capability, it's a fundamental new way of doing software. Instead of human-engineered algorithms, we now have data. We tell the AI, we tell the model, we tell the computer what are the expected answers, what are our previous observations, and then for it to figure out what the algorithm is, what's the function. It learns a universal, AI is a bit of a universal function approximator, and it learns the function. And so you could learn the function of almost anything, and anything that you have that's predictable, anything that has structure, anything that that you have previous examples of. And so now here we are with generative AI. It's a fundamental new form of computer science. It's affecting how every layer of computing is done, from CPU to GPU, from human-engineered algorithms to machine-learned algorithms, and the type of applications you could now develop and produce is fundamentally remarkable. And there are several things that are happening in generative AI. So the first thing that's happening is the frontier models are growing in quite substantial scale, and we're still all seeing the benefits of scaling. And whenever you double the size of a model, you also have to more than double the size of the data set to go train it. And so the amount of flops necessary in order to create that model goes up quadratically. And so it's not unusual, it's not unexpected to see that the next generation models could take 10, 20, 40 times more compute than last generation. So we have to continue to drive the generational performance up quite significantly so we can drive down the energy consumed and drive down the cost necessary to do it. So the first one is there are larger frontier models trained on more modalities, and surprisingly, there are more frontier model makers than last year. And so you have more on more on more. That's one of the dynamics going on in generative AI. The second is, although it's below the tip of the iceberg, what we see are ChatGPT, image generators. We see coding. We use generative AI for coding quite extensively here at NVIDIA now. We, of course, have a lot of digital designers and things like that. But those are kind of the tip of the iceberg. What's below the iceberg are the largest computing systems in the world today, which are, and you've heard me talk about this in the past, which are recommender systems moving from CPUs. It's now moving from CPUs to generative AI. So recommender systems, ad generation, custom ad generation, targeting ads at very large scale and quite hyper targeting, search and user-generated content. These are all very large-scale applications have now evolved to generative AI. Of course, the number of generative AI startups is generating tens of billions of dollars of cloud renting opportunities for our cloud partners, and sovereign AI. Countries that are now realizing that their data is their natural and national resource, and they have to use AI, build their own AI infrastructure so that they could have their own digital intelligence. Enterprise AI, as Colette mentioned earlier, is starting, and you might have seen our announcement that the world's leading IT companies are joining us to take the NVIDIA AI Enterprise platform to the world's enterprises. The companies that we're talking to, so many of them are just so incredibly excited to drive more productivity out of their company. And then general robotics. The big transformation last year as we are able to now learn physical AI from watching video and human demonstration and synthetic data generation, from reinforcement learning from systems like Omniverse. We're now able to work with just about every robotics companies now to start building general robotics. And so you can see that there's just so many different directions that generative AI is going. And so we're actually seeing the momentum of generative AI accelerating.
And Toshiya, to answer your question regarding sovereign AI and our goals in terms of growth, in terms of revenue, it certainly is a unique and growing opportunity, something that surfaced with generative AI and the desires of countries around the world to have their own generative AI that would be able to incorporate their own language, incorporate their own culture, incorporate their own data in that country. So more and more excitement around these models and what they can be specific for those countries. So yes, we are seeing some growth opportunity in front of us.
And your next question comes from the line of Joe Moore with Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great, thank you. Jensen, in the press release, you talked about Blackwell anticipation being incredible, but it seems like Hopper demand is also really strong. I mean, you're guiding for a very strong quarter without Blackwell in October. So, how long do you see sort of coexisting strong demand for both? And can you talk about the transition to Blackwell? Do you see people intermixing clusters? Do you think most of the Blackwell activity is new clusters? Just some sense of what that transition looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. The demand for Hopper is really strong. And it's true, the demand for Blackwell is incredible. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is if you just look at the world's cloud service providers, the amount of GPU capacity they have available, it's basically none. And the reason for that is because they're either being deployed internally for accelerating their own workloads, data processing, for example. Data processing, we hardly ever talk about it because it's mundane. It's not very cool because it doesn't generate a picture or, generate words, but almost every single company in the world processes data in the background. And NVIDIA's GPUs are the only accelerators on the planet that process and accelerate data. SQL data, Pandas data science toolkits like Pandas, and the new one, Polars. These are the most popular data processing platforms in the world. And aside from CPUs, which, as I've mentioned before, really running out of steam, NVIDIA's accelerated computing is really the only way to get boosting performance out of that. And so that's number one, is the number one use case long before generative AI came along is the migration of applications one after another to accelerated computing. The second is, of course, the rentals. They're renting capacity to model makers, are renting it to startup companies. And a generative AI company spends the vast majority of their invested capital into infrastructure so that they could use an AI to help them create products. And so these companies need it now. They just simply can't afford, you just raise money, they want you to put it to use now. You have processing that you have to do. You can't do it next year, you got to do it today. And so there's a fair, that's one reason. The second reason for Hopper demand right now is because of the race to the next plateau. The first person to the next plateau gets to be, gets to introduce a revolutionary level of AI. The second person who gets there is incrementally, better or about the same. And so the ability to systematically and consistently race to the next plateau and be the first one there is how you establish leadership. NVIDIA is constantly doing that, and we show that to the world in the GPUs we make and the AI factories that we make, the networking systems that we make, the SoCs we create. I mean, we want to set the pace. We want to be consistently the world's best, and that's the reason why we drive ourselves so hard. Of course, we also want to see our dreams come true, and all of the capabilities that we imagine in the future and the benefits that we can bring to society. We want to see all that come true, and so these model makers are the same. They're of course they want to be the world's best. They want to be the world's first, and although Blackwell will start shipping out in billions of dollars at the end of this year, the standing up of the capacity is still probably weeks and a month or so away. And so between now and then is a lot of generative AI market dynamic. And so everybody is just really in a hurry. It's either operational reasons that they need it. They need accelerated computing. They don't want to build any more general purpose computing infrastructure. And even Hopper, of course, H200 is state of the art. Hopper, if you have a choice between building CPU infrastructure right now for business or Hopper infrastructure for business right now, that decision is relatively clear. And so I think people are just clamoring to transition the $1 trillion of established installed infrastructure to a modern infrastructure, and Hopper is state of the art.
And your next question comes from the line of Matt Ramsey with TD Cowen. Your line is open.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Jensen, I wanted to kind of circle back to an earlier question about the debate that investors are having about the ROI on all of this CapEx. And hopefully this question and the distinction will make some sense. But what I'm having discussions about is with like the percentage of folks that you see that are spending all of this money and looking to sort of push the frontier towards AGI convergence and, as you just said, a new plateau in capability. And they're going to spend regardless to get to that level of capability because it opens up so many doors for the industry and for their company versus customers that are really, really focused today on CapEx versus ROI. I don't know if that distinction makes sense. I'm just trying to get a sense of how you're seeing the priorities of people that are putting the dollars in the ground on this new technology and what their priorities are and their time frames are for that investment. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. The people who are investing in NVIDIA infrastructure are getting returns on it right away. It's the best ROI computing infrastructure investment you can make today. And so one way to think through it, probably the easiest way to think through it is just go back to first principles. You have $1 trillion worth of general purpose computing infrastructure. And the question is, do you want to build more of that or not? And for every $1 billion worth of general purpose CPU-based infrastructure that you stand up, you probably rent it for less than $1 billion. And so, because it's commoditized, there's already $1 trillion on the ground. What's the point of getting more? And so the people who are clamoring to get this infrastructure, when they build out Hopper-based infrastructure and soon Blackwell-based infrastructure, they start saving money. That's tremendous return on investment. And the reason why they start saving money is because data processing saves money. Data processing is probably just a giant part of it already. And so recommender systems save money, so on and so forth, okay? And so you start saving money. The second thing is everything you stand up are going to get rented because so many companies are being founded to create generative AI. And so your capacity gets rented right away. And the return on investment of that is really good. And then the third reason is your own business.
Alrighty. Well, I know it's probably not just me, but it got quite boring. They have about 30 more minutes on that call. As we can see, the slowdown on Nvidia has started to present itself. It's not showing any signs of a recovery just yet, but it's beginning to show a slowdown on its downside. So I'm going to keep watching it. I'll make sure that if you're part of LPP, I'll keep you up to date via Discord. Also, please remember LPP 3.0 comes out September 1st. And especially if you want to be one of our beta testers, you can save your spot for free right now. And that's the first link in the description of this video. If you don't see it, refresh the screen, first link down below. If you're not yet part of LPP, I would encourage you to sign up before LPP 3.0 comes out so you get grandfathered in. Yes, if you sign up for LPP 2.0, you will automatically get access to 3.0 at no additional charge. And again, that's that second link in the description down below if you're trying to sign up before prices double. I appreciate your time. I hope that earned your thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out, and I'll see you tomorrow for our live trading session. Take care.